It's the double clap. Wow. Nobody wants that.
No, you got to get a shot for that, and it's a different kind of shot than what we have.
That is correct. Hey, everybody. Hola. Bienvenidos.
Hola,
Welcome
bienvenidos.
to Indiana Success Happy Hour. Brian Quinlan here from Daniels Real Estate and First Home Indy on YouTube.
And Brad Niccum from Nest Mortgage Group and Tasting Tequila with Brad.
I am repping the Tasting Tequila with Brad. Stop picking your nose. Repping the Tasting Tequila with Brad because this is our post Tequila Mexico episode. We just got back last night.
Well, we did.
It was a late night.
Did you have fun? No, it wasn't. So we usually fly at like 2 in the morning.
All right, that's not late.
11 o'clock went back.
All right, that's fair. Yes, I did have a good time. So we are going to talk about the few days that we spent down in Tequila, Mexico, thanks to the Jose Cuervo people. And, I think Brad's probably most interested to hear what I have to say because you've spoken quite a bit about your trips to Mexico. So before we get into that, let's talk about what we're drinking and get this mouse out of the way. So what do you have there? Looks pretty familiar.
Believe it or not, I'm on the show. I'm drinking Jose Cuervo.
Hey, how about that?
This is a smaller batch product that they make called La Rojena 1908. They make it in one specific oven. They're using stone brick ovens. They're using a roller mill for crushing. They're using a proprietary yeast and closed fermentation. And they try to do this as close to what tequila tasted like in 1908. And it's 45% ABV. It's a little bit higher ABV as well. And it's, as for a Jose Cuervo tequila, I can drink it. I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
So enjoyed that. And we do have the Familia Reserva we'll talk about here. And then Brian has a special cocktail.
So I walked in and Brad says, I made a cocktail for you. And he handed it to me. And I did not know what it is. I know it had tequila because I'm not drinking a beer on this episode because it's our tequila episode. So here we are with this. And cheers to all of you. Now, this was made, what would we describe this drink as?
This is made with Craft Cartel's cocktail mixers. And this is the grapefruit and cinnamon.
Hi, Richie.
Soon be available on Amazon. You can reach out to Craft Cartel. I suggest if you're in the restaurant or bar business, or if you don't mind cuss words and you like great content, definitely follow Craft Cartel on Instagram. He's phenomenal. And you got to meet him.
I did.
This week. He's pretty phenomenal, isn't he?
Richie's a fun dude.
He's a little high strung, isn't he?
He's always got stuff going on. He's got a couple of young girls at home and his wife, and he supports the family by owning like 3 businesses, I believe is what he said.
Yeah, the Craft Cartel syrups and cocktail mixers. And then he also has a Craft Cartel actually is a service where he brings custom drinks for weddings or events, and they'll set up the bar and they'll do it all there for you. It's pretty awesome. And he's killing it.
He is, man.
So, this stuff's delicious.
And he's a content creator. He gets paid for that. So
yeah,
good for him, man. And it was a pleasure to meet you, Richie. If you're watching, thanks for hanging with us.
You better watch this one, Richie.
Absolutely. So does this have a name, or
it's using the grapefruit and cinnamon mixer. So you take 1 3/4 ounces of the mixer, and then 1.5 ounces of your favorite spirit.
Okay.
And so that has actually Elevation 1250 Reposado in there.
Okay.
And also added a little bit of lime, just because Richie told me to put in a little spot of lime.
Good call.
And then what I like to do to
cinnamon,
bring the drink up a little bit less syrupy is add a little bit of Topo Chico.
Okay. Well, it's pretty tasty.
Fabulous.
It is. Yes. I could drink that for a while.
Okay. So the first thing I want to start at the airport, not the Indianapolis airport, but at the Guadalajara airport.
Okay.
You've been to a lot of airports all around the world.
I have been to many airports, yes.
Guadalajara airport, first thought.
Going in, before even, where you land and where you take off in an airport is generally almost like 2 different worlds. So
this is true.
So I had already been to the airport because we landed there, but I didn't see the airport. So going into the airport yesterday when we were leaving, in my head, Guadalajara is a big city in Mexico, but I don't necessarily have the impression going in that it is, not like a big city like we have here in the United States, especially, having been to Washington, New York, Chicago, some of the larger airports, right? So expectations were kind of low. holy moly, what a great airport.
Yeah.
So many places to eat. It is super clean. It looked brand new. And I don't know how old it was. You said it had been renovated
They're
recently.
adding on and renovating all the time.
I was super impressed.
So I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm flying to Mexico. And they have this picture of this, airport that they're going to fly into because they've been to Cancun or they've been to Cabo or Puerto Vallarta. 8.9 million people live in Guadalajara.
Yeah, it's a big city.
It's a big city.
Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of traffic of airplanes coming into that, like any other city with 8 million people in it. So,
Yep. And I loved the security. It was fast. The lines were practically nothing.
Yeah.
And, compared to the American airports I've been in, way more efficient.
Way efficient. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So then from there we had a little traffic snafu. We came in a little bit late. Our driver was
Well, now we're going back to starting.
Yeah, this
So
is
this is
landing in
Tuesday.
Guadalajara. Yeah,
Got
so our plane came in a little late. It was American, so that's kind of normal. And then our driver wasn't there because the group we were supposed to be left, so they were trying to get a driver back to us. It was an hour away. So
Traffic in Guadalajara was busy.
it's
that day.
exciting, isn't it?
Busy.
So we ended up getting an Uber that was on his game.
He was.
And he said at one point, if you're in a hurry and you don't mind if I drive fast.
And I remember you saying, drive fast.
And I seen 140 kilometers 2 times in the city.
Okay.
So he was cooking.
This is not specific to Mexico, but it is outside of the United States. The regulations on driving are very lax in other countries.
We have too many rules.
It's just the merging, the motorcycles coming up between, tight spaces, pedestrians walking along the side of the highway. It's a bit scary. I tend to consider myself a pretty safe driver, so just sort of being in a car where you're merging into traffic in tight spaces, and you know what, the car you're merging on top of, they don't really care. It's almost like they expect that to happen. There's very little horn honking.
No, people are pretty. No one got angry.
Yeah, it just is what it is. And so, when you travel outside of the U.S., just know there's a very good chance you're going to have some driving scares.
It fits my driving style.
I bet it does.
Yeah,
I've been in the car with you.
I drive fine in Mexico.
You're a bit of a quick driver.
I like that. You notice in the town that there's not 4-way stop signs at every road. You don't have to put 4-way stop signs at every road if everybody knows that the other person might not stop and everybody stops. So,
and the stop signs in the city of Tequila, especially, they're optional.
I think they're 4.
They're hand optional.
Yeah.
And it's almost like somebody took an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, stuck it on a pole. It's a little tiny sign. Exactly. Hard to see and easy to miss.
But crashes?
I didn't see any.
Yeah. So, so the drive from from Guadalajara to Tequila, I always talk about the views of what it looks like.
Yep.
What was it?
So a lot of mountains around, not unexpected. And the amount of agave fields that you drive by was significantly more than I anticipated.
It's beautiful. Isn't
it? I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to say it's beautiful because there just isn't a lot of color, which makes the agave more noticeable because it looks like, big squares of blue out in the field of brown dirt that's everywhere.
Right.
And the more I learned about agave and the farming of agave to make tequila or whatever they do with it, really stood out to me the more I thought about it. Driving to the hotel, this wasn't registering with me because I didn't know that much.
Sure.
But fuck, agave, people just plant it on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
There's no watering of agave, which is cool for dry countries, of course. But you would think maybe out into an organized field. Nope, just kind of spots of agave here and there, just right there along the side of the road.
And then you see the rows and the cultivated fields.
But some is just random.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So you did see it with it very ground. We are coming out of dry season. Right?
Gotcha.
So May is the driest, hottest time.
Yeah, this is the hottest month.
So when June 15th is the beginning of rainy season, and it rains a lot. And when I say a lot, like every night, been there in the summertime, it rains at nighttime and it's a lot of rain. Summertime, the sun comes out, July, even though it's rainy season or August, it may not rain at all during the day. Some days it does, but it rains at night. So everything in 2 months from now is going to be unbelievably green
Cool.
as you drive in, and the blue of the agave like offset everything. It's pretty cool looking. The little town of Tequila, my wife and I always say that when you leave Guadalajara, it's 2024 or 2026.
26, yeah.
And when you get to Tequila, it's more like 97.
Dude, okay, driving through the town trying to get to the hotel where he's taking, side roads. Well, it's just the roads there.
Yeah,
But
they're not. They're just roads.
right. It, I mean, thank goodness I was not sick
Mm.
and I don't get motion sick because the bumping, because it's not a
Old
paved road,
cobblestone.
it's on top of bricks or cobblestone or whatever. And then they throw in random speed bumps that aren't labeled.
No.
So if you're not paying attention, you're probably going to wreck your car. I mean, I don't know how people live in the town there and don't drive a truck or an SUV because low cars have got to
Yeah.
just be wrecked. I was surprised actually at the number of people driving ATVs around town.
Yep.
You don't have a whole lot of storage, but if all you're doing is going from one place to another, you don't have to carry, or pack anything. ATV might be the best choice because the road that you're driving on, there ain't no flat surface anywhere on the roads.
And I have to say, they call them moto locos.
Okay.
A lot of crazy people on motorcycles, like fast. So, in lane splittings, it's legal in a lot of states in America too, but they do lane splitting at a really high level. No
Yep.
room, and they just like,
Yep. Just need a little bit of space.
little teeny bit.
Yep.
Hotel, thoughts of the
Hotel was very nice and like a maze. I'm sure I guarantee I did not see the hotel, the entire hotel.
Oh no.
So, we went to breakfast on Wednesday morning and actually it's Thursday, doesn't matter. And when I came out of breakfast, like you had led me to breakfast, so I knew where to go. When I came out, I wasn't entirely sure how to get to my room and I went the wrong way and wound up in a part of the hotel I wasn't staying in. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll turn back and go a different way. But that set aside, it's super nice hotel.
Yeah, big rooms, very clean.
Humongous rooms, very climate controlled. I thought, some hotels you go into, you can't really do much with the AC. I thought that worked just great.
Mine was an ice box.
Yeah, humongous shower and just a whole lot of space. I had 2 queens beds in my room, and I mean, it was twice the size of that.
I had a living room.
Yeah, you
I
did.
had a whole living room with a big bed. So then the food, phenomenal.
Food was good.
Yep.
And as I've said to my friends, vacation Brian eats different than home Brian. So I'm a little bit more adventurous on vacation.
And you did good.
And I did. I ate, most of everything. And, it's cool because when you're here in the US, as I find in many Mexican restaurants, it's really just a different version of the same thing.
Yeah.
And there it certainly was not. There was lots of variety, and when we did our dinners with the whole group that we were with, oftentimes it was almost like small portions, but they brought you
Whole bunch
several courses worth of them, so you did get a good variety and good sampling of what the food is like there, and I was happy with that.
Yeah, I was too. And so this trip was organized by Proximo and Jose Cuervo Corporation. And the whole thing was what they called a transparency tour, right? I'm not one that does a lot of speaking about Jose Cuervo and the size of brand they are and the juice that they're making. And I also had a preconceived notion of how they made it. And I had a lot of people tell me how they made it. I find out now, I guess, from people who hadn't been there.
Yeah, so it seems.
Maybe I've only been to one of the distilleries that weren't the 2 that we visited.
Yeah.
Because we talk about diffusers and that column still equipment and the things that really modern tequila companies use. And those are brands that I'm not necessarily fond of.
Mm.
And then we talk about brands that maybe have some additional sweeteners or things to change the flavor profile. What we've seen is a very traditional process. And I'm glad that you've seen it the way you did, because I believe we've seen 2 distinctly different distilleries within the same distillery.
Yes, I totally agree.
So La Rojeña 1, with, I think you said there were 22 ovens total,
Sounds right.
varying from 11 tons all the way up to 22 tons was the biggest one. Some mechanical systems of moving the agave from the ovens to the roller mill. Like I've been a lot of places where they hand throw them into the shredder versus being automated, but still cut the
Conveyor belt.
agaves.
Yep.
big agaves.
Definitely.
They were very open. They answered any question that we had. So what was your thoughts of seeing really how little it takes? I mean, it takes a lot, but when you think about the 3 or 4 steps that we walked through, did you feel that that was an overwhelmingly process or that it was smaller than what you thought?
I'm not sure I would say yes to either of those.
I guess
So
it depends on you may not have had a preconceived thought.
yeah, exactly. Um, Prior to going to the distillery, the day before, we sat with the
The
farmers
farmer's stand.
and learned about how they cultivate the agave, how they harvest the agave, and they did a live demonstration of cutting up an agave, and before it would ultimately be thrown into a truck and goes over to the distillery.
Mhm.
So now fast forward, now we're in the distillery. There is a mound of cut agave. What are those called?
Piñas.
Pinas, that is massive. And knowing that essentially they brought them on a truck, dumped this out, and now the manual process starts. And this is, especially compared to the La Rojena 2, which we'll talk about, this is much more manual. So they have a number of people who come out, and one guy's there chopping the pina in half, and then 2 or 3 other guys pick up a half and they carry it and they throw it into the oven until it's essentially full, and then the cooking starts. Well, when we were learning about the farming of it, we did a fun little activity where we were all estimating what the weight of it was, and it was in kilograms. Um, no one was even close to the correct
I
answer.
said 65.
I take that back. People were close. 67, I believe, was the correct
67, yep.
answer. And to think that the entire truck is full of these pinas that are, probably 60 to 70 kilograms. And then they're manually trucking those things. That is intensive. And, Cuervo is huge. And so an automated process in the other distillery, the other Rojena, right?
Yep.
But, so that does make it a little bit easier over there. It makes it a lot easier over there. But to think about some of these smaller places that aren't Jose Cuervo, and they're making it this way without all the automation to it.
Yeah.
It really gives a greater amount of respect to what goes into making a tequila, because it is so much manual labor. And I thought about this later on, because the next part of the process, after it bakes for, how long do they bake?
48 to 72 hours.
There you go. Then they got to cool off the ovens, basically by opening the.
Part of that 72 is the cooling down process.
So it cools down, doors are open, vents are open, whatever. Then there's 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are inside that oven,
Unloading,
shoving them out the door. Another guy is shoving it onto a conveyor belt, and then the automated process takes over. But still, manual labor. And while it may be cooler in the oven at that point, it's got to be so damn hot. Hell, it was 96 degrees the day we were there, just walking outside.
It was hot.
I can only imagine what it was like. And we went into an oven. I don't know when the last time it was on, but I mean, it was perfectly fine being in there. It's not like we were heated by any way, shape, or form. But I mean,
it's pretty neat. Hopefully we can, while we're doing this talk, we can show some of the pictures that we have, because we took a lot of video and pictures. So let's jump back to the fields for a second, because when we drove up this huge hill overlooking the town of Tequila, I think they said we were close to 1,800 meters.
Yes.
And we ate. We had a great breakfast, great food. I think I'm the only one that had tequila in my coffee.
Probably not.
I don't know. The guy looked at me like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." So then we had some nice food, and then we were leaving there to go to where they compost everything. And another, I'm going to call it a travel snafu occurred. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely would.
So we were loaded in the van to get ready to go, and the driver wasn't in the driver's seat yet. We were just sitting there getting ready. And what happened?
As more people, our van, I think we had about 6 people in the van. So people are slowly loading in, people are outside talking. And then I don't honestly know how, but the parking brake came off, slipped, and the van started to roll forward down a small hill towards
which became a
brick wall,
gradual hill.
Yeah. And so I I was sitting, Brad and I were right behind the driver, so we're the first row. And I just know there was a gentleman standing in front of the van, one of the drivers, his eyes lit up, and he's like trying to push on the van so that it doesn't roll forward. And he's like, oh no. And so then he got out of the way, and I'm like, oh shit, we're rolling. And so myself and Richie, we jumped out. And while the van is slowly in motion, and I left Brad's ass behind because Brad was
Well, I thought they were still in the van, and I was watching a guy very hectically trying to open the door as we were gaining speed, and he
struggling.
couldn't get the door open. So I just scooted over, jumped over the console, and threw my hand on the brake underneath next to the gas pedal and stopped the van.
And so you had hand on the brake, head underneath the steering wheel, and the guy comes in and he's like, let go of the brake,
And I said, set the parking brake.
which he did. And Brad saved everybody after it rolled for a couple feet.
I rolled a pretty good chunk. I didn't see it, but Jen said that her and Allie,
Yep.
that it was coming towards them as they were walking in front of it, and they were like freaked out. And, so yeah, that was a fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun little thing.
It's a good story to tell.
It is. It's awesome. I was impressed with the composting area.
Oh my
and
gosh,
how they
yeah.
take care of all of the leftover. It's called bagazo, or bagaza, that's all left over after the milling of the agave.
So we put two things together here. When we were at Rohenia One, when you watch the agave go down the conveyor belt and it passes through several spots of water, which
What's that machine called? You remember?
No,
Roller mill.
okay. So it's going through the roller mill and it's hit with water, I think about 3 times on its way through. There you go. What it's doing there is it's helping to extract the juice that's inside the agave, essentially the sugars. Thank you. And then the agave itself just continues on, and then it goes up an incline and eventually drops over the top into a dump truck. Well, what amazed me was seeing how it had gone through four waterfalls.
Yeah.
And then by the time it gets to the top, which is, I don't know, 10 or 15 feet up, it's not like it's a huge distance, and it starts to roll over into the dump truck, it looks like it's dry.
Yep.
I'm like, how the hell is that happening? Because so much has been sucked out of it.
Pushing
there you go.
Squeezing it all out.
Yeah. So then as it fills up that dump truck, well, that dump truck ends up going to the compost area, which we saw on our agriculture tour. And it's just mounds of cooked, dried agave that they then mix in some of their own nutrients so that it composts, and all of that eventually goes back into their field to help more plants grow. Super impressive. Zero waste, basically. They talked about their carbon footprint. Somebody asked that question. And he says, we don't have a carbon footprint because our fields are always used.
Yeah. Yeah. And they said they can't be carbon neutral because of how much the agave uses to grow anyway. And so they said they'll never be carbon neutral, but they're trying to be as low as possible.
They do a great job, though, of just reusing everything.
And if you think of how much water it takes, I forget how many liters of water it takes to make 1 liter of a tequila, but it's like 20 liters of water to make 1 liter of tequila. Yep. So you have a lot of waste, and you have a lot of silage that's left over called vinyasas. And those have really super high pH content. They're very bad for the environment. So they showed us the facility where they treat those vinyasas in this tank. I don't know, it had to hold 1 billion liters. It was some crazy number. Massive tank. They treat them all there. They're getting ready to build a wetlands to help cure those as well. And then once those are cured and the pH levels are removed and the chemicals are brought down on that is then used in the composting process to cycle that through. And they showed how there's this whole compost area is lined with plastic underneath it that goes into this tank. There's like just millions of dollars in plastic underneath, this compost. So I thought that was impressive. I know I've been to a lot of distilleries. They all have some form of process, but no one else is making 1.9 million liters of beer. So it was really interesting to see how they treat. And one thing that I don't know that you noticed, but I thought was pretty awesome is as we were walking from La Rojena 2 to the barrel houses and where the vinyasas are treated, you probably didn't see it, but there's the block wall, and right at the edge of the block wall, there's a salsa sign. Oh, because the salsa water tower and the Salsa property was just on the other side
Oh
of
yeah.
that brick wall. So you had two of the biggest, manufacturers of tequila literally within 8 inches of each other. They're just like sharing a wall. And that is pretty incredible when you think about what's happening in both those facilities.
Yep.
So La Rojena 1 was small, old, disorganized, right? The ovens kind of went every which direction because they said as they built on, they just used the space they had.
Yep.
And they designed La Rojena 2. And I don't want to tell you my impression. I want to hear yours, and then I'll tell you mine.
One of the things that sticks out to me is how he said they can run the entire warehouse, La Rojena 2, with 4 people.
Yeah, the whole distillation process from crushing to fermentation to distillation.
Yeah. And part of that was a disappointment because obviously they're not hiring people because they
Right.
only need 4. But considering how much that they are making, and they're still using La Rojena 1, so it's not like they don't have
Right.
a lot of workers hired there. Actually, I think it's 5,000 workers for
That was in
Jose
the
Cuervo.
fields.
Okay, I apologize.
I
There
think
you
it
go.
was 120 per shift that worked in La Rojena 2.
Okay. So, yeah, these massive roller mill,
Biggest stills I've ever seen.
yeah, just liters and liters of just massive, distill.
When I seen the first still,
Mhm.
when we walked in that room, like I always tell people, you literally could have Fortaleza sit in my bar. You could have
Mhm.
so many of these. You've seen El Tecaleño.
Yep.
Right. That you didn't see the stills, but it was just on the other side of that wall. So it was pretty small. When I seen the one still that probably wouldn't fit in my bar, would it?
They're
They were huge.
again, they're massive. Not just wide, they're also super
Way
tall. Yeah, it was a sight to behold, really.
This is a pretty impressive process.
No doubt.
So, I'm not going to say, look, go run out and buy all of Jose Cuervo tequila. They were very specific that, they are using diffusers for other products. They did show their column still, which one of the things I found interesting is they take their heads and their tails and everything goes through the column still.
Mhm.
They try to pull it and extract as much alcohol out of the heads and tails, and that's what's used in RTDs and sent to the places where they make some of the flavored tequilas. So that kind of tells you what you're drinking there. Um, so, they didn't change my mind that I think they're the greatest palette of tequila.
I mean,
Right.
they would have been happy for that to have been the result,
But I
but
think they
that
knew.
wasn't their goal.
Yeah, they knew this. They're building a very stable, consistent flavored tequila, and they are doing some nice things in barreling, which I think was impressive. So, I like that part. I'm going to say the barrel houses were pretty impressive.
Oh my gosh. Just well, first he showed us like their old barrel house, which in and of itself
Was
was very impressive. Then like, let's show you the new place. Well, there's 2 barrel houses right next to each other, each of which can hold 50,000 barrels.
Yeah.
And they're full. Now he said not every barrel is full.
Right.
But if they needed them, they could be. And
Now the barrel house that was full, what was that smell when we first walked in the barrel house? The dark one.
I don't know.
Did you like it though?
I thought it was decent, yeah.
Yeah, I wish they made a candle out of that smell because it's the wood, it's the tequila, all of that maturation smell, the alcohol. It's just like this really good smell. I
Okay.
like it.
Yeah, there were lots of good smells.
There were a couple bad ones.
Yeah.
The composting facility was not a
Not great.
delight, not a candle being
Not
out of that.
great. I remember getting out of the van and going, wow, it smells like shit.
Okay, so let's talk about this thing here.
So as he's going to reveal this here, one of the cool things we got to do was to fill our own bottle and then complete the process for a bottle of La Familia Reserva.
Extra añejo.
I guess Reserva de la Familia. So
Yep.
It is an extra añejo, and it's in this giant barrel and with a tap on it. And they allowed us to grab a bottle and fill it. Then we took that bottle after we put the cork on it and went over and we got to put the wax seal on ourselves, which was pretty cool process. And then, sign the label or whatever we did with that. And so we have our very own. Brad got 2.
Is that a surprise?
Because he was the first one to be up there to do the wax. And instead of being able to wax the bottle himself, the gentleman took the bottle from him.
He did it.
And he wanted to show Brad how to do it. But then he didn't realize anyways right away, like, oh, whoops.
I was supposed to let them do it.
And, people in charge of our group said, "We want you to do your own."
I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, Brad did not really care, but they insisted. He's like, "Can I keep both bottles?" They're like, "Yeah, absolutely." So Brad came home with an extra bottle.
I should ask for an additional box.
You should have actually.
One of the things they do is they hire a Mexican artist to do these boxes. Every one is different every time they put an extra añejo out. The person that did it is this guy right here. And I'm not going to try to say the name, but it should focus there.
Alejandro Venegas.
And they had all of the boxes in a museum and all the pictures that the artist had done, and pretty impressive. And I honestly think this was kind of cool. I'm not a big art person, but
It looks like something from Dr. Seuss.
it does look very Seussish.
Yeah.
So I was impressed. I was impressed with their whole presentation.
Yep.
If it wasn't for Jose Cuervo, I probably wouldn't be a tequila fan, because Jose Cuervo is the reason tequila is what it is today, and I can't take that away from them. So
For sure.
I did have Alex. I didn't show on this bottle. Alex, the master distiller, autographed the back of the bottle and actually wrote a whole like story over the top of the other writing, and then he told me what it said because it was kind of hard to read. But I was really appreciative of him, and he was very, very pleasant, very nice man.
So one of the other cool things outside of that free bottle, they gave us all a bottle of the 1908 that you're drinking. So
Yep.
2 free bottles, which is cool. And this would have been the last night that we were there at the hotel. We had gone out for the night after dinner and then came back, and everybody in their hotel room had the 1908 and this copy of Tequila Wart written by Ted Genoways. And it is autographed, which is cool. Now, you've
Where?
read this book.
I found no autograph anywhere. If you find it, I'm going to be so happy. I didn't go far enough.
There you go.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, Ted, you've read this book.
I have, and
Yep.
my wife and I have listened to it like 3 times.
There you go.
So cool.
Ted was on the trip with us. And the first night that we were there, he actually led us on a tour around the city and plaza area, giving us some background on the history of tequila and how Jose Cuervo was involved with all of that. And Ted was just a wealth of information and a really nice guy. So that was a nice parting gift as well.
And I'm going to say, even if you're not a tequila person, but if you're a history person, this book started out to be just the story of, Jose Cuervo and tequila. And because the Cuervos and the Salsas and all the families that are involved in the making of tequila were so prominent, and they were in Guadalajara, which Jalisco and Guadalajara were a big state, big city, a lot of wealth in that area. They really dictated a lot of things that happened in their government. And I think they had a war like every year. If you listen to this book, that's why it's called The Bloody Struggle for the Spirit of Mexico. From the French Revolution, the Spanish Revolution, to corruption and killing governors and it's amazing. The story of this is amazing. It should be a movie, or I told Ted it should be a Taylor Sheridan series, because it would be really awesome. But it's something to read or listen to. I listened to it. I haven't read it. So I'm probably going to read it now, because you get another piece, when you read something. And Ted is, like you said, a wealth of knowledge. It took him, I think he said, 5 to 12 years of research to get the whole thing put together.
All right. Well, again, thanks, Jose Cuervo, for that.
No doubt.
Leading to one of the things you asked me, I think, every night was, what did I think?
Mhm.
Am I enjoying myself? And so the bloody struggle for the spirit of Mexico really resonates. Not that I remember a whole lot of what he said in terms of history, but I enjoy going places and learning about their culture and learning about their history. And it is just in the culture of the town that we were in. You see it everywhere. The church, and it in and of itself has its own great stories, is the center of the town, off very typical in Mexican society. But everything, there's a plaza right outside there, and people gather there. They sell their stuff, and I'm sure that there's lots of celebrations that happen right there.
Oh my gosh, I guess every weekend.
And then from there, it just kind of branches out into little shops here and there, distilleries here and there, and there are several of those around town. And so I was impressed by the history and the culture that's there. one of the things that I heard multiple times before I left, and I told people where I was going, and they said, "Be careful."
Hmm.
And you've said this multiple times. It is to me a very safe place. Now, anywhere you go, anywhere in the world, you're always going to have idiots that do stupid shit and people get hurt and killed. So that being said, at no point while walking around town did I feel unsafe. Not one time.
Yeah. And you even walked back by yourself
I did.
pretty late at night.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I walked from a bar back to the hotel several blocks, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and never felt like I was unsafe or out of place. I have been places where there's a feel, sometimes an actual sketch, or just that, as I'm walking by, people are looking at me going, "Oh, that guy's American," maybe giving you an evil look, or really just kind of the cold shoulder. Not here, man. People were welcoming. People were, bienvenidos, buenas tardes, all the time. And so, I was impressed by that.
They usually speak first too. Like
Oftentimes,
a lot of times you're walking, in the morning, they're like, "Buenos dias,
yeah.
buenos dias," and
And that's not just the workers at the hotel.
No,
because
these are
they're paid
people
for
on
that
the
kind of
street.
stuff. These are people on the street.
Yeah. So it is very welcome. I'm glad you said that because it is something we talk about a lot.
Yep.
Of, how it's Mexico. You should be scared, and everybody thinks like Mexico's the size of Chicago. It's like, no, it is huge. It's like the size of Europe.
Yeah.
So come on. Again, don't be stupid. Don't do stupid things. But the other thing you did get to see was you got to see a couple little pieces of Fortaleza.
Yep.
Which I think is pretty beautiful in itself.
It was cool.
And then we got to go to Casa Sayas. So you've seen that hotel that we stay at, which is
connected to El Tequileno.
Tequileno. Yeah, we walked through there. We walked through and, hey, can you give us some cooked agave? And the guy, I don't think he spoke any English. He was like, see, here he has two big giant
I mean,
chunks.
it's waste anyways, so, right? What are they gonna do then? Man,
Right.
so good. Yeah,
It is good, isn't it?
it's just like eating candy, man. It's so good.
There were a couple times I look over at Brian when we were at one of the dinners. He was just like chewing on cooked agave.
That's correct. I was.
So good.
Food wasn't coming fast enough.
Super hard to explain to people though. It's a flavor that you just can't explain. So it's pretty awesome. Well, I want to say thanks for going.
You're welcome.
I know that it was free, so that part was cool.
Yeah.
And you got to spend some time in a rooftop pool drinking some margaritas and whatever that purple drink you drank.
I have no idea.
And you met some pretty fun people. We met some people that have really big followings,
Definitely.
like Lucas Assis and again, Craft Cartel and Dylan, was it Kesto?
Yep. Kesto Sips.
Kesto Sips
Out of
from
Detroit.
So yeah, we had some really good times. It was a lot of fun. And thanks to the Cuervo people.
I will say thanks to you for inviting me. And I'm glad I was able to experience that, because having heard you talk about this in your visits for the last 2 years, it's nice to live and be engrossed in the culture there and the things that you talk about. And also, you can tell me till you're blue in the face, as you already have, about how tequila is made. It doesn't really register, because A, I'm not a huge fan of tequila, so do I really care? But B, never having actually seen it, now seeing it in person definitely gives me a greater appreciation for it. One thing I did learn, which is funny because you have made me drink so many tequilas, and I never really know which one I like and which one I don't. For whatever reason, on this trip, I finally registered. I'm not a Blanco or Reposado person, and now I know why, because it really gives me a peppery sensation in the back of my throat that is very aggravating to me.
Yeah, you don't like that.
I don't. And so
I'm getting a lot of that with this one right here.
Añejo and extra Añejo, I'm pretty good with. There was one that we had, I think it was Wednesday night, and I took a drink. I'm like, oh my God, that is like dessert.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I believe it's actually this one here, which is
might
the
have been,
French cast and American cast.
Yep.
And this is very good. And it doesn't have it's not overly sweet. It's not like fake sweet.
Nope.
It's just a really nice cooked agave with a really nice softening. So that tells me probably every one of the añejos have up there that are aged with some French wood. You probably like every one of them.
I just might.
Yeah.
I just might. Cristalino, I believe, is another one.
Yeah, you should like that.
Well, but I did. It was good. And again,
It's soft.
I now know what I don't like. And I had a number of mixed drinks. Now, when I go out to a bar, I don't order anything that has tequila, because I always just think, well, I don't really care for tequila, so I don't order those drinks. Well, here, that's just what they gave you. So we had shoot, now I can't remember the names.
You had a Cantarito.
That's the
You've
one.
had Palomas. You had Margaritas. Whatever that purple one was.
Well, yeah, I don't know what was in the purple one, but
It was tequila.
there was one. There was one you kept calling purple that wasn't. It was red, but it was actually a tequila mixed with a vodka,
Okay.
and then a strawberry syrup and some, I don't know, like maybe a squeeze of lime or something. But man, that was
That's
good.
good too.
Yeah, but I have no idea what it's called.
You leaned into the Cantaritos.
I did.
Yeah. Cantaritos are good.
Yeah.
Those are one of my
Again,
favorites.
if anything came out of this trip, it gave me a greater respect for tequila and opened my eyes to, you know what, maybe it's not all that bad.
Yeah, let's drink some healthy stuff.
There you go. So,
Well, I want to say thanks for two things. Thanks for going with me, but first and foremost, none of this stuff would have happened if you wouldn't have said, "Hey, let's do a podcast." And none of this would have happened if you wouldn't have said, "Hey, you should do content on tequila." And 1,000 bottles later,
yeah.
and 25 amazing distilleries that I visited, and so many people that are friends. And you've seen that a little bit. Like we walk in some of these bars, and they're like, "Dude, like,
Like you were a mini celebrity.
no,
Oh yes, you
no." I
were,
just have a
dude.
lot of good friends that we've met there, and really became friends with people.
Yep.
And that part is really fun, and I thank you for that because you forced me to do something uncomfortable and chase something that I've been a big fan of for a good portion of my adult life. So thank you for
Well,
letting me do that.
I mean, a free trip is nice, but when you start getting paid from YouTube, you can just throw me some of the money.
I mean, last month I made $200.
What? All right, it's taking off.
It's going.
All right. Well, to all of you out there, thanks for watching Indiana Success Happy Hour and Tasting Tequila with Brad, because I bet this winds up over there too. Cheers to you, my friend, and cheers to all of you. We'll see you next time.